There are two ways to protect your pages, whether you're issuing a GET request or a POST request. You can either say you need a specific permission, right? You require a specific authorization to get that page, to post data to that page, or you simply need to be authenticated, right? Now, having authorization means that we actually already know that identity, and so it implies that we already have an authenticated user. But sometimes you simply want to say, I don't care whether you have authorization or not. The authorization is implicit if I know your identity. All I require is that you are authenticated. So real quick, I want to come back on this topic to look at the two different ways that you can force authentication on web pages. The first way of forcing a user to authenticate to access a page is actually a tool we have already seen. We had already imported from the auth decorators the login required decorator, and we had applied it down here on our template view, right? So without this decorator, we would simply show the template view to any person. However, with the login required, we ensure that any anonymous user is going to be redirected to the login page, but that any authenticated user will be able to see this page, regardless of what permissions they have on their account, right? No permission is required. They are simply authorized by default because they have been authenticated. Now, this decorator is not the only way to do this. Now, the other way we can do this is using a mix-in. So we're going to remove this code, and instead of having a template view that has this decorator, we're going to code a view that is for the account, but that uses the login required mix-in. And I actually have that code already loaded on this right tab. And so you can see that from contrib auth mix-ins, I'm pulling in the login required mix-in, and that down here on the account page, I am using the login required mix-in along with the template view and simply passing in the template name. So these two pieces of code are more or less exactly the same thing. We are simply just building it in a slightly different way so that you don't necessarily have to use a login required in this way. You have the ability to just pull it in this way to make your life a little bit easier. Now, of course, login required mix-in only works on class-based views. So if you are using function views or anything of the sort, you will, on the other hand, need to use the login required decorator, as you know, this will not be an option for you. The decorator as well as the mix-in are generally considered to be equivalent, but they get used in different contexts. The login required mix-in can only be used, for instance, with class-based views, whereas the login decorator can be applied on either class-based views if they're being already instantiated by asView, or on any sort of function view. So this way you have the ability to force authentication on any type of view that you might be using in Django. And next up, we'll see how to take that the step further, as mentioned at the beginning of this video, where we'll see how to enforce authorization on any of our views.